So I'm actually happy. Like, this is the first one I'm doing in Palo Alto, which is really weird because I've been doing like 20 or 30 of those, and nobody's in Palo Alto anymore. Or maybe that's just me. It's just my bias. Yeah,
they're in the city.
San Francisco is just like taking over for startups, and I'm kind of really amazed because it's not so long ago that like Facebook was here, or like, you don't have to go all the way to Park or anything like that. But now it's kind of like, it's funny, everybody's in the city and there's not that much. I mean, how do you end up in Palo Alto? Why did you decide to be here?
I have a family. So it's like, kids need a place to play, they gotta have good schools, and the commute's very, very easy for us.
That's crazy. You're right. Maybe it is just linked to the average age or the average kind of situation. And now you have so many like kind of quote unquote YC founders, or like 15 or whatever. I always joke about that. And they don't have family, they just want to be in the city, and they just maybe kind of stay up there. But it's kind of cool.
And the nightlife as well, right? So in the city, there's a lot of nightlife. There's less of it here.
Yeah, Palo Alto's kind of It's a bit hard. I'm with you. The Bay Area is very weird that way. Yeah, it's like there's not that much to do if you want to have like a young person's life in the Bay. But conversely, if you want to have a family, the city is kind of really rough too. So it feels very like segregated, secluded, right? It's a bit fun. So I'm kind of like thinking back at like security, because you're doing this startup, right, ThinAir, and I've wanted to talk about this for a long time, which is, when I was like doing startups like let's say 10 years ago, I had to worry about a very small list of things. I had to worry about like CSRF, I had to worry about SQL injections, maybe I had to worry about like salting my hashes. There was like few things if I was doing a web-based startup, and I could go through it, or at least in my mind, and I felt safe. I was like, oh, I've followed like all 4 of the best practices, or 5 or 10 of the best practices, and that would get you mostly there. But now in 2016, it feels like there's Russian hackers and there's leaks all the time. There's like, entire database that get hacked and released on the internet. And it feels like if you're building a startup today, you have to worry about a lot more. And so do you feel like that's, first of all, like a valid assumption starting, or do you feel like security has always been this hard, we just didn't know about it?
I think it's always been this hard. I think that the amount of things that we need to worry about depend on the people that we're doing business with and data we actually collect. But CSRF is still a problem, right? You still need to worry about that, right? The difference is that there's a lot of tools that kind of help you mitigate these things in a more automated fashion than you having to kind of actually code and get it done yourself.
So you feel like most of it is just we're more aware of all these things, plus we're adding kind of new vectors of attack all the time?
Yeah, I think because the industry is just becoming more intelligent around messaging, more intelligent around the things that we need to be paying attention to. It's just that now the list is just longer, and me as a startup founder, I just need to be thinking about this even more.
Right, but so how much do you feel also like responsibility has shifted now? It kind of feels like as a company, you have, it seems like there's much more of an onus of like owning security and protecting your users and protecting the data in a way that I don't think that was as well incorporated by kind of stakeholders, by like, company executives or anything like that. And now it kind of feels like, if you get hacked, it's your responsibility. If you're Anthem, if you Target, if you're a big company, your head might fall for this. And so of course that kind of translates to startups as well.
Yeah, I think that, because it's becoming more prominent, because the adversaries are becoming more sophisticated, because the places where they can attack are just becoming, so widespread. I mean, yeah, so you're getting board level pressure that says, hey, we cannot get hacked, and if they do business with a startup that gets hacked, it's still their problem. So it's just more visible now.
Right, it is more visible. And I guess the other thing that makes it more visible is that, more and more of our life is online or is connected. And so maybe 10 years ago you had to worry about, I don't know, your Facebook likes, but that wasn't like, the biggest problem. But now, of course, all your banking is online, like a lot of your relationship, your dating, your Ashley Madison information, anything like that is online, is accessible, is hackable, and so it's kind of feels like the visibility has really definitely increased from that. So what are some of the new things that you feel like have kind of changed recently, if anything? We still have CSRF, we still have SQL injection, we still have all these things we need to worry about. But what are some of the biggest changes you've seen maybe in the last like 5-10 years in terms of security for startups?
Yeah, so I think the fundamental problem has always been the same. It's always the people, right? So the problem with security is that it is easier to do the wrong thing than it is to do the right thing, right? And since if you think about every organization that exists, it is faster to get it done as quickly, for you to get things done quickly, that's what you get bonus for. So, you don't get bonus for how secure you are, you get bonus for how quickly you get a problem done. So, until technology kind of advances to the point where it works the way that people do versus having to train them to work differently, we're going to continue to have this type of problem.
So do you feel like this technology problem, because Yahoo was in the news this week about the big hack, and there's all this write-ups about the culture was wrong, they didn't really worry about protecting themselves, the security team was kind of shoved aside and saying like, oh, you guys are paranoid and you don't need to kind of force us to do all this stuff. And it kind of feels like, at least some people, that it's kind of a human problem. Like you need to enforce it, you need to do it. Yeah.
So if you think about it, so just with, so Yahoo is an organically grown company. They started out very small, they got very big. Well, when they first started, they had all the security holes that every small startup has, and they became a big company, and yet they probably still had a culture that was similar to a smaller company, right? Where you fix the things as you need to, and you work fast and you break things. So if you think about it, they're a typical organization that had the same amount of security problems as everybody else. The problem is that they're the focus this week. Next week it'll be someone else. This is not a Yahoo problem. This is an industry-wide systemic issue.
It is, right? And it seems like the mentality in the average startup and the average company too is like, you can add security later. We'll do a review, we'll fix that, we'll do an audit, we'll pay a consultant. Right. And that's just as delusional, in my experience, as like adding a performance. We'll make it speedy later, we'll optimize this later, or make the UX better later, right? You kind of have to bake that in from the start. Is that correct?
I think it's just hard. I think it's just complex. Even if you design it for the right things in the beginning, it's still going to be hard to get it right over time. So, any point in time you may be okay, but over time you'll continuously be vulnerable. So the only way to really do it is, number one, educate the end users, make sure you're continuously evaluating your security practices and changing as the landscape changes.
Right. So how do you feel like, what are some of the ways that concretely you would recommend people look at doing this, right? Is it just as simple as like making like a security-minded person one of your first hires on the technical team? Are there like guideline standards, like anything that you recommend in kind of setting up the right security thing, from the start, but also, as you said, like in continuity, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it has to be embedded in the culture of the company. So anytime you're starting new initiatives, you're deploying new code, you're even doing, hiring, certain new divisions, security needs to be thought about. Because if it's not, it's bolted on later. That there's a seam there, and that's all an attacker needs is a seam. Because we have to be. On the defensive side, you have to be right 100% of the time, right? On the offensive side, you only need to be right once. So it's a much harder problem to solve.
Right. That can be really, really hard. So, what do you kind of do with the mentality that I've seen a lot of people, which is, hey, it's only a matter of time. We're gonna get hacked, and so we'll have to deal with that when that happens. Sure. And there's only so much we can do. Like we can't prevent it from happening. Sure. So we should only spend that much energy and this much effort, protecting ourselves.
So I think the right approach is that the default is that you're already hacked, right? It's not when it's going to happen, it's already happened. The question is, when do you notice it? Like, what's the time to noticing that you've actually been compromised? And that's what a lot of the new investigative tools give you, is visibility to when you actually are hacked, so you can remediate it very quickly. So if you take the approach and say, we're never going to get hacked, we're never going to have an issue, you're doomed to fail, right? Don't take that approach. Right. Figure out how to mitigate it when it does happen. Have a rapid response team in place.
Right, and so it does seem like, okay, you have to acknowledge the fact that it's going to happen, but you can't be defeatist about it either. It's just kind of like, you have to be ready when it happened, and to be ready, you need to kind of be prepared in advance. That's right. So what are some of the tooling? It seems like, a lot of people probably like, if you're building a startup today, you enable like two-factor auth on your account. You do kind of a lot of basic checklist stuff. What are some of the approaches and tools that you would recommend in terms of like setting up your policy right for an average startup? Or is there such a thing at this point?
So there's different areas where you kind of focus on. You should always start with the people, and by starting with the people, yes. Good password hygiene, two-factor authenticate everything you possibly can. Make sure you educate folks to not click on links. Every link that comes in through the email, because links are literally made to be clicked. Right. So it's very hard to resist, right? So it's setting up that culture within the company to be more security aware in general.
Right. And do you feel like for the average company that's doing kind of maybe like online SaaS type of stuff, there's good kind of vendor that you would use or you would recommend in terms of like helping detect when there's been intrusion and help kind of remedy that? Do you kind of feel like that's there yet, or are we still kind of in the early ages where there aren't like good go-to solution for like helping your security, right? If you're in a SaaS startup.
So being a startup, so most utilities are kind of built for larger organizations because those are the ones that have the most sensitive information, and those are the ones that are willing to kind of spend the money to solve it. So if you think about it, there's not a lot of solutions that exist for startups, and the question is, does it really need to happen just now? Now, the technology that we're working on is actually something that kind of does some of this stuff, but at the end of the day, if you start with just good security hygiene on the people side, and that'll eventually turn into great security practices long term for the company.
Right, but that seems interesting. Startups. I'm always leery recommending like a startup focus on startups as customer because we know that's kind of really bad.
It's a terrible market.
It can work sometime, but most of the time it doesn't. Yeah. But there's also kind of a connected SMB segment, and now there's more and more smaller companies, mid-sized companies that are online, that have apps, that have websites, that have SaaS services, and it does seem like maybe there's an opportunity there for not just the top-end enterprise security segment, which does have a lot of vendors competing for it, but maybe kind of solutions for the remaining 50-80% of the market out there, because it does seem like they're about to get hacked on a very, very massive scale because they're all kind of really massively going online on a massive scale.
I think in general, you're going to startups use a lot of just SaaS services in general, and I think what's happening is that those SaaS services are getting pressure from the enterprise companies to get more security conscious and security aware, and those benefits actually trickle down to the startups. So, over time, we'll start to see more sophisticated utilities, but it goes back to the people, it goes back to the practices. People need to understand that there are things that you just can't do, especially in a startup environment. But until that happens, you're going to continue to see the breaches that you see every day.
No, that makes complete sense, and you're right. I think there's going to be a human transition that people need to do, but maybe a lot of the tooling and software and platform you use, that technology advance has already been made, right?
That's going to So our tenet, even within ThinAir, is that we develop tools that work the way that people do versus trying to train people to work the way the tools should be used, right? And I think long term, that's the way you solve the problem. It's just that it's a more advanced technology that just takes time.
Right, it makes sense. So we're still in the early stages, it seems like, of understanding what online security, online privacy, online, security in a larger sense kind of means. And so it's kind of funny, you're right. I don't think the UX and the human components caught up into those technologies just yet.
Well, that's where AI is going to really help advance this, right? Because you'll start to see what's normal behavior versus authenticating a particular user, right? That's the difference.
I've seen a lot of that, now with just CAPTCHAs, but also kind of detecting patterns of who's connecting from where and all that. And it could become much more human-friendly, right, for lack of a better word. So you're right. I think there's going to be a new wave of kind of security companies. I already know of a couple going through YC right now and everything else that are kind of understanding the fact that security shouldn't be in your face, forcing you to type code. It should be able to detect a lot of the stuff for you.
It should be completely transparent and automatic. You shouldn't have to think about it.
And that's a good thing to aspire for. So thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
I think there's some myths that maybe I can debunk a little bit, but also give you some tips. When you think about working with a VC, first of all, where you are in a fund. Are you the first company in my 20 or are you the last one? I actually don't think that matters very much. It shouldn't. If I'm a good VC and I've been doing this over a long period of time, I reserve enough for my first deal and my very last deal. So that shouldn't be an issue. What would matter is if it's the 5th or 6th year and we're starting to figure out who deserves the last amount of capital in the fund. Have I reserved enough for you? That's what you care about. So I think that's more important to ask over time. When you think about who, this is the other thing. Everybody, understandably, wants to have the name partner in the firm.